Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show podcast, the podcast show where we unlock potential one dream at a time. Today, we have another guest whose journey is truly worth hearing. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Moneyway experience.
What's up, my good people? Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show, the podcast that brings you stories behind success. Today, we have on the show founder of Deaf Hip Healing Technology, Dr. G. Rex. How you doing today, Doc?
Really good. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm glad that you could take the time out your day, man, and come on the show today.
Well, I'm honored to be here.
I appreciate it.
Very nice of you.
So, Dr. G, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, I was born in Windsor, Ontario. My dad was Polish. He was born during the Great Depression from Polish immigrants right from the old country. And my mom's Canadian, but she was, they're both Canadian, but dad was born during the Great Depression. And then mom's family, that side of the line, comes from England. And my dad was an electrician for Ford's. By the time I was about 3, I had a clear idea of my mission in life, which was to help people on a worldwide scale. And I used to draw pictures. When I turned 6, I was his oldest son, first son. I was very cherished and everything. And then when I turned 6, because I was always very interested in my own world, and I didn't care about school at all. And the school, the ladies, the teachers hated me, and they failed me. They failed me when in grade 1, And when they failed me, back in Windsor, back in those days, I was born 1956. They actually used to publish the children's grades in the Windsor Star, the Windsor newspaper. So all my father's friends could see that Steve Crewley's son failed grade 1. And dad did not know emotionally how to handle that. So the family, following Pop, the entire family just abandoned me emotionally. And that remained that way for the rest of my life. So what happened was I had that strong vision, and I was always felt connected to God in a powerful way. And then that all started to wall off. I noticed that since Pop wasn't with me anymore, I needed a father figure. So I turned to television. Back in those days, black and white TV, you turn the dial, the little light comes on. So I used to watch the powerful men like John Wayne, James Cagney. And of course, I was always attracted to music. Later, I became a musician for a while. So I used to watch some musicals with Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly and so forth. Well, anyway, I noticed one thing in the movies. The guy that was well respected was the toughest guy and the fighter. So I became a fighter. By grade 8, I could knock the hell out of anybody in the school. I was by far the best fighter. And I remained that way for the rest of my life. I started training in classical martial art. I trained formally as a professional by the age of 18 under a great Japanese master. But I started my own training by the age of 13 and classes by the age of 16. So what martial art was a way for me to get noticed because I was completely invisible in the family. I was humiliated at school. And I usually had about one friend, and I was always with my dog, And I was always in the forest. I'm very close with nature. So I led a hard and a very, what you could call a prestigious martial career. I spanned professional training about 46 years. And I carry the lineages now of 3 great martial systems. And I mean the whole system. This is real samurai education. I put in about 50,000 mat hours in Aikido alone, and then another 26 years of classical sword. So why is that relevant? Well, it did 2 things. One, it made me known and gave me a sense of self-image. 2, it was teaching me a high concentration and focus because it was all Zen based. And 3, I had massive injuries. Both my knees, 3 knee operations, broke my back in half when I was 27, and shoulder damage, everything. So what happened was I healed. The only operations I ever had is my knees because they were locked at 90 degrees. But I broke my back in half when I was 27, and I healed that just like Joe Dispenza when he had his back crushed by a truck. I healed it with meditation and chiropractic only. And I sealed it up in 12 weeks, which was validated at Providence Hospital in Detroit, Michigan, with CAT scans. So I learned how to heal, and I was always introduced to some of the finest doctors that ever walked the earth, including George Goodhart Jr., who is the founder of applied kinesiology. He passed away a long time ago now, but until he died, very few people could compare to Dr. George Goodhart Jr. So what was going on was, as I would be healing through these big injuries, I was being trained and I was being mentored by real healers, not allopathic medical people. 2 different worlds. There's no correlation whatsoever. So that goes on all my life. I went back to university. I used to work at Ford's on the motor line. I was a laborer. And then when they had a recession, I got a job for minimum wage cleaning junkyards and with, all kinds. I was a hardworking kid, started working, cutting grass by the age of 13. I know that side of the tracks. I needed that kind of money to buy my car and afford my training because Sensei was in Detroit. I lived in Windsor. So I did that for 10 years, and then I quit after I broke my back, and I went to the University of Windsor. So I'm going to the university later in life, okay? So the reason I'm telling you this story is so any of you, if you feel beat down or stuck or whatever it is, there's ways around that. But the fundamental thing is you got to have a direction. I always had my direction. The first direction was to be a sensei and teach and help people. So I go back to the University of Windsor. I did a 4-year honors degree. During my last year there, 1990, because I graduated early in 1991, I had an enlightenment experience. So all those years of training, I was in a psychology class, University of Windsor, and all of a sudden, I dropped into a very deep state of awareness. And all I know, I had plans to move to Toronto, and I had everything all figured out. And when I came down out of that state, it was I'd say about 3-4 days to come down from that state. It lasted in the class about 45 minutes. Then all I knew is I had to leave Canada and move to California. I didn't know why. So I found a little university there, private outfit for transpersonal psychology, fancy psychology dealing with the mind. And I just got on a plane and left. Didn't have any money, didn't have anything, just my uniform, a wooden sword, wooden staff, and my knife. And I landed in Silicon Valley. Now, long story short, because I was as poor as a church mouse, I bought myself a little bike. I used to ride. We calculated about 300 miles a week on that bike. Everywhere I went, I had to go by bicycle. Well, anyway, I got invited to meet a great spiritual man, a real great man. He was the Mufti of Cyprus, and he was a Sufi sheikh. So I got invited to meet this guy. I never heard of a sheikh. All my education till then was strictly Japanese. And the old gentleman got off the plane and he looked at me and he immediately loved me and I loved him. And a couple of days later, he did a little prayer for me that I would have enough money to have my own school. And 1 week later, so here's miracle number one. 1 week later, a stranger shows up at my door, and he gives me $40,000 US. And I had a little following of students at that time, and most of them were men that were guys that know how to build a house and electricians, stuff like that. And we rented an old factory in Silicon Valley. We handmade it into a beautiful dojo. It was called the Dosatsu Ken Dojo. And at that dojo, that's 1994, I taught the United States Special Forces, NASA scientists. It was a live-in dojo, so I gave sanctuary to homeless people. I helped battered women, alcoholics, everything. And I slept on the floor there and lived only off donations. Any money that came to the dojo was to keep the dojo going. And I had quit that school. The transpersonal psychology school turned out to be nothing but a bunch of malarkey. It's just garbage. So I had quit that, and now I'm a professional sensei, and this is Silicon Valley. And my dojo also became the spiritual center for all the Sufis of the Silicon Valley area. Every Thursday, we would hold big giant ceremony, and the sheikh would come, and it was really very special, very beautiful. It was not commercial, and I lived there. I lived off grid like 11 years. But one day in January of 2000, right at 2000, my landlord has a heart attack and dies. And his son broke the lease illegally because he wanted my dojo for a .com company. And within 2 weeks, I lost all my work, all my students. I was homeless, and I went through by far the largest shock of my life. It took me over 2 years to get out of it, through it. And there was a big lawsuit. I had a good friend, because I was penniless, so he got a hold of a big lawyer, and the guy took it on contingency. And we defeated him, but it took 2 years. And during that time, because of the shock, and I became lost for the first time in my life since I was born. I didn't know my direction anymore. And I started to develop a lot of anger and a lot of rage. And I mean real rage. In the year 2000, I started training for warfare under a famous ex-Vietnam vet, and I was training myself like a professional killer. So I was a very angry, ugly man. I had lost my connection with the divine completely because my heart was closed like that. And this nice old gentleman took me into his home and saved my dignity. We became very good friends. And near the end of those 2 years, I decided to go back and become a doctor, a licensed doctor. And then I really got mad because when I went to the chiropractic colleges, because we won the court case, so that gave me the money. When I went to the chiropractic colleges, I found a disgusting, absolutely disgusting state of corruption, garbage. The pharmaceutical companies had bought them all out. All of them. I transferred 3 times from Georgia to 2 places in Texas. I finally graduated from Texas. But I hated everything I saw so much because I already knew great chiropractors. I know the difference between a real healing and lies. And what they were teaching all the young kids, because I was in my 40s when I went back to school. What they were teaching all those young kids was pure garbage, and it's still pure garbage now. So I hated what I saw so much. I developed. I always had perfect vision because I'm a I'm a tactical firearms weapons specialist, but I developed heavy cataracts. Eventually, I became so blind when I moved here to Thailand in 2019. I had to have both eyes, the cataracts removed. Now I can see it, but I got so bad I couldn't see a truck. Now, why did that happen? That's what we call epigenetics. That's what controls all of the genes of your health. So when I was so full of hate and I was so angry and I couldn't stand what I was seeing, because truth is very, very important to me, especially when you're influencing other people in their lives. Manipulation, I'm vehemently against. So over time, those frequencies destroy your health or will kill you or make cancer. It made breast cancer in my right side of my chest, and I had to have that just cut out in 2014. And then because by that time I was ready to let go of the anger, but it took all those years and a lot of inner work. And then I never had any chemo or none of that stuff. I just remove it. It's gone. But that's the cancer's talking to you. The anger had to end. This had to end. And in order for me so I became a licensed doctor. I was graduated Texas. I'm in my, an older man. I got married there to a Texan. And then we moved to Georgia because I love the trees in Georgia. I never had any success from the only success I ever had financially was when I was a sensei in California while the dojo was there. And for the rest of my life, till I moved to Thailand in 2015, I never could make a dime. And it didn't matter how good I was, how smart I was, the degrees I had, or anything. It didn't matter at all. When Tammy and I moved to Georgia, I opened up my clinic, couldn't make a dime. And in 2014, just before I left for Thailand, I was also got my license in Tennessee. Absolutely love Tennessee. And I was a senior staff doctor there, and I actually had a wage. But by that point in time, the way things are in America and with the government and everything, I'm just fed up. Now, during 2012, I got introduced into a very powerful stream with the divine, and my connection to the divine was reinstituted. We moved to Georgia after I graduated in 2007. By about 2011 or 12, I was reconnected after all those years with the divine, and I started to do and receive lots and lots of grace and blessings. And meanwhile, I was learning. And I met in Georgia the man that made me who I am now. He gave me the basis. His name is Larry Obersky, and he taught me about the quantum field, consciousness, and cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is why I couldn't make any money. All that means, it's a big fancy word, but all it means is in your subconscious mind, there's a program or a belief that says you can't do something, or like money's bad, or it's dirty, or only the rich people or the smart people can make the money. We have to work really hard. That anything in the subconscious mind has 1 million times more power than the frontal part of your brain, we call the frontal cortex. And this is the education. So in my education, I got my doctor's degrees. I have my master's from Canada. I have all those years of martial philosophy, all kinds of stuff. But it only has the power of 1, and the subconscious has the power of 1 million. So I had been programmed since I was a little child from mom and dad, right through my life, including the martial craft, the Japanese man I studied under. he always taught us that money was only samurai don't look at money. It's considered nothing. I believed all that garbage. So I put that, I sealed that in my subconscious. So Dr. Habersky, over a period of 8 years, he saw me and saw me and saw me, and he was eliminating that negative programming. And then in 2014, I had another spiritual experience, this time directly from the divine in a process called the Sacred Chambers at Dr. Rossi McClellan's home in Atlanta, Georgia. And during that, within a matter of months, because it was near the end of or like the last quarter of 2014, everything changed. And suddenly I knew I was leaving to move to Thailand. Now, I had never dreamed of living in Thailand. I don't know how to speak the language, and I certainly didn't have any money at all. But I got on that plane in 2015, April, and I left North America. I left my wife. I left all my beautiful pets and everything I knew, and I landed in Thailand. And with my new consciousness, so the secret to this story is purpose and the consciousness, what type of consciousness you have, and your connection with the divine, with your higher self or God. Doesn't matter who or what it is, but you need that connection. As soon as I got to Thailand, life changed 100%, and now I'm a very wealthy man. Money comes to me from multiple sources. I don't have any problems. I have we got divorced, Tammy and I, when I moved here. I've been with Oi now. Her nickname's Oi. We've been together 9 years. Everything is, my life is like a la la land dream. And the other thing about, if you want my story, there's a lot of adversity. As long as you have your direction, you just have to keep going. I had so many failures. Fake people fooled me and ripped me off. Con men, all kinds of stuff, because I was so naive. Every single time I just restart, until now. I founded Depth Healing. I serve thousands of people all over the world. And what I do is I remove their problems so they can re-engineer their life and their health. That's what I do. I do it from here. I'm a distance healer, so that I don't care if you're on Mars. You call me up, whatever it is, I'll change it in real time. I do that 7 days a week.
Don't miss out on CJ Moneyway's book, Both Eyes Open and Both Eyes Shut. And get ready to pre-order his upcoming release, The Issues of Life, coming soon. Moneyway, aiming to inspire.
Wow, that just the story alone, man, is amazing, man. So that's what the deaf healing technology is. So that's like it's like an online thing, or what?
That's
How
right.
can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, you just go to my website. My admin set this thing up now. So you go to depthhealing.org and to privates, and then you just schedule in what you want. You can do a 1 hour or a 2 hour. 1 hour is for an acute single problem, and 2 hours are for big complicated issues. Like, let's say you have trouble with your wealth, your health, and your relationship, or wealth and health. Take a 2 hour, because I got to go into the subconscious and find the cause, because all of the causes of everything is in the field. It is not inside you. You're like the caboose on a long train. Well, I go all the way up to the engine, and I heal everything from there down. And then that changes your physiology, changes your perception, that changes your vibration. And by the law of resonance, that changes your life. Yeah, so that's what depth healing is. Depth healing is, if you look at quantum physics, and which is energy science, the new sciences, I'm using frequencies, two kinds, destructive interference waves and constructive interference waves. Sounds really fancy, but all it is, a destructive interference wave, folks, means if this thing has a frequency, if you were to look at it on a machine, it'll have a wave, sine wave, and it goes in a certain pattern. A destructive interference wave meets it, it's going in exactly the opposite. So when this one's going up, this one's going down. And when they hit each other, they cancel to zero. They cancel completely to zero. So that's how I remove negative things. And constructive interference waves is exactly the opposite. They match each other. So when they meet, they combine and grow really big, bigger, stronger, better. Okay. So I go in, let's say for some reason when your mom was really angry and fed up about something, and her little daughter comes in, and the daughter's only 5 years old, and the mother says something very hurtful and harsh to her little daughter. She doesn't really mean it, but she's like, you're sloppy and ugly, and you always make me angry. So that the little child, that goes straight into her subconscious, and our subconscious records at a rate of 40 million bits of information a second. The frontal part of the brain only records 40. So the little girl absorbs all of that and everything else there in great detail, and that's in there. Just like if you got wet snow and you got a snowball and you roll it downhill, it gathers more snow and it gets bigger and bigger as long as that hill keeps going, because it's rolling and it's picking it up. Well, those kind of programs, or that kind of those painful words, her little mind isn't thinking, so it absorbs it directly as the truth. And then as she's growing up every day, whatever mom does or whatever anyone else says that seems related to that, it adds to it. And it seems to confirm it, that she's ugly and she's an irritant to people. So that's growing and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then by the time they meet me, they're usually like in their 30s or something. And they don't understand why they have so many problems with people and life. That's why. So I can go back, I can trace that down all the way to when you were conceived. Through the womb, everything. I go right in there, and I remove the original downloads. So the issue that the adult is having, it has no foundation anymore in the subconscious. Once that foundation's gone, I can come up to present day now, whatever age they are, doesn't matter. And there's nothing supporting that negative belief. So then I disassemble the negative belief and erase it. And when I erase it, it's gone. As I'm doing that, our brain, it's adapting and reorganizing. That gives you or changes your perception. So a farmer sees a perception. I mean, if the farmer sees a big field of cow manure and it's all wet and covered with flies, he perceives that as wonderful, fertile ground for his crops. Some guy that grew up in Manhattan, New York, to a rich family and never been out of the city, he considers it disgusting and it stinks and it's all covered in flies. That's his perception. It's the same field, but two different subconscious databases seeing the world differently. And the way they see it gives them a frequency. The frequency goes by the law of resonance. Now, what is that big fancy, you've heard of the law of attraction. How does it actually work? Really easy to give you an example. You know what a tuning fork is? Little thing, and You hit it, ding, and it vibrates, goes like that. Well, a tuning fork, I wanted you to imagine a real big house, 3 stories, lots of rooms, and every room has all kinds of different tuning forks, big ones, little ones, tiny ones, thick ones, thin ones. That house and all the rooms is the world or the universe, and then you're outside. You're about to come in through the front door. When you come in through the front door, you have one tuning fork, and we'll call that tuning fork your dominant fundamental vibration. Like, let's say, by that I mean you're a real happy man, or you're like I used to be, a real angry man. So that's represented by the tuning fork. So you walk in through the front door and you hit your tuning fork. Now, in that whole house, through the floors, the walls, doesn't matter, any tuning fork that has the same frequency as that one, it'll start to vibrate. And none of the other ones will vibrate. None of them. So let's say I have a lady, she comes in through the front door and she was raped and sexually abused all her young childhood. Now she's come to me because she's always in abusive relationships. Her husband or boyfriend beat her. She was raped many times when she got to be an adult woman. Why? Well, she comes in through that door, she hits the tuning fork, and that's the frequency of an abused, frightened lady that's carrying pain, hurt, shame, guilt, remorse. That's the frequency. So she hits her tuning fork, and the only guys that are going to come to her are the tuning forks with the same vibration. Now, when she sees me and we get rid of all that, knock all that pain and all that shame and all, it's gone. Now, then I use constructive interference waves. I build her frequency up. It's a real nice vibration now. So when she hits the tuning fork, these totally different kind of men come. Not men that are going to hurt her. They don't have that vibration. Just like people that go to McDonald's, they have a particular vibration because McDonald's is non-biodegradable garbage. I hope nobody in the audience eats that because that's slowly killing you. It's like Frankenstein food. It's supposed to look like that. It looks like that. It's just never, ever let that stuff go into your body. Well, anyway, if you were to measure the frequency of the people in the McDonald's, and then let's say you went to, let's use an extreme example, a vegan yoga restaurant, the frequency of the people that visit the yoga vegan restaurant will never be part of the social set of the McDonald's people or vice versa. They won't mix. That's the way the universe works. That's the way the world is designed. So the life you're living right now, whatever it is attracted to you by who you are. And who you are is determined by what's in your subconscious mind, not by your education. That's why people go, I did 30 years of Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard, Bob Proctor. I know all of the big business people. And you can go to those seminars till hell freezes over. And what you'll see is people will go there, they get all fired up, they have their plans, they have their goals, everything. And 1 week later, 3 months later, it all crashes right into the ground, just like New Year's resolution. Why? It's just cognitive dissonance. As soon as the cognitive dissonance is removed, all those plans and goals will work. And so that's what I do in a nutshell, so that I can empower people. And my biggest gift is I can do it for up to thousands of people at the same time. So it's called morphic field physics. Morphic fields is how all the universe and the world is structured. And all it means is groups, collectives. Like the collective field, morphic field that governs human beings is different than the field that governs birds, which is different than the field that governs insects. And then there's each kind of species. So that gets into some high science kind of stuff. But the basic idea is, with me, that was the vision I had when I was 3 years old. I can take a huge collective of people and work on their subconscious mind at the same time relative to a specific question or subject. And twice a month, that's what I do. I have a collective coming up for people, and what we did was we made it only $50 so people can afford. It's easy. And because it has the group, it has enormous power. So the one coming up, first one in August, next week actually, I believe it is, on the 15th. If you're in America, it's your evening of the 15th. And it takes me about 1 hour, and it's on anxiety. So what I do is I have a maximum of 100 people for those collectives. And however many people are there, I will go directly through their subconscious and remove all of the foundational programs that allow them to experience anxiety. So that foundation will be removed. And then I come up into the present, and I will eliminate a entire plethora of various types of anxiety. And what happens is that that removes pain from their body, increases their energy, helps their relationships, makes them happy, takes out the fear. And I do one subject. So there's 2 a month, and each subject I hit once a year. That it's very, very powerful. All of those kind of fear, anxiety, hurt, pain, worry, all of those are all interrelated. So they're all entangled. So the people who are going to all of them, they're making enormous progress. If you go to my website, you can see a lot of the testimonials from people.
Hey, man, I've learned a long time ago, sometimes some things are not needed to be said when it's already been said. So, hey, you said a lot. Just one thing, Doc.
Yeah.
Tell us, where can we find your book, man? Your book, Want More.
Oh, just go to Amazon. Okay. Just go to Amazon, and it's called Want More. Put in my name, Dr. Grant Crewley. I don't think Rex was in there. Rex was a name given to me by the divine several years ago now. And I wrote that book in 2012. I'm happy with that book, and it's short, but it's information dense.
And what about your podcast?
My
podcast? We find you on your podcast? Yeah.
We call it The Legacy. What happened was went on hold a little bit when I had this huge car crash. I'm into my 6th month now. I was rendered, because I'm alone here. My wife is in Norway working. I was rendered pretty much an invalid for quite a while. But we're going to fire up Legacy again. Meanwhile, usually I'm the guest on guys' shows like yourself. Oh, sorry about this late. I'm on my balcony.
Nah, man, it's all good, man. I appreciate you coming on today, man, showing your wisdom and your insight on things, man. And I pray that all things get better with you from your accident. Like I said, I thank you for coming on, man, and sharing your insight. Hey, so take it from the doc. Go grab the book, Want More. He said be coming out with his podcast a little later on. Legacy, check that out. Check him out on his website. Check out Deep Healing Technology and see what it's all about. You have been listening to the CJ Moneyway Show. I'm your boy CJ Moneyway, and I'm rocking it with the doctor, Dr. D. Hey, we out of here. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the CJ Moneyway Show. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends, leave a comment, and drop a review. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Friday for more inspiring journeys. Who knows? Your story might be next.